Answers many of these questions I know, and I'll also provide you a wee bit of history or introduction to ferret itself. The ferret itself was proved to actually have been domesticated at first by Egyptians during the time of the pharaohs. So quite a lot of famous Egyptian people of the time, such as witch doctors, pharaohs, owned ferrets. It could be debated, depending how you take it, as actually ferrets were, say, domesticated before dogs were, or possibly even cats. Cats were definitely there at the time of the Egyptians and the ferrets, but it could be argued that ferret were there before because they have basically been on record. If I remember correctly, they have been recorded before the time of Moses coming, Jesus, and that kind of stuff. So they have basically been, if you like, pets of humans for a long, long period of time. And into like World War One and Two, the reasons for why ferrets became so popular in the UK and possibly other countries as well was, if you think about it from this perspective, if you're saying rations and you haven't really got enough to feed your family, if you get a ferret, the ferret can easily catch rabbits for you. And that was part of why during World War One and Two, ferrets became very popular pets to have. Because if you think about it, if you're about to get attacked or something like that, or you don't have enough food, a ferret can easily catch something way faster, way better than a human can. For why during World War One and Two, ferrets became quite a popular animal, particularly in the country areas. But you always get someone in the city or that kind of stuff that has them. But the main purpose of them in the past was basically to hunt down rabbits and other things so then you could have something to feed your family for a week or so. Another thing as well I want to cover is quite a lot of people still hunt with ferrets. The reason for why I don't personally agree with it is because I'll just tell you an example of a guy I knew. I'm not going to reveal who the person is, but anyway, he brought his ferret for hunting. Anyway, one of the farmers in the area gave some kind of poison to rat. So anyway, ferret ate the poisoned rat and then died. I mean, to me, it's not really risk having my ferret die just because some idiot's poisoned it to try and protect his farmland or that kind of stuff. I know as well you can get some places in the world, and the thing that's good about them is you can get some places which are specially designed for people to do ferret hunting. These places are normally quite decent because you don't really have the farmers nearby which are going to poison your ferret or poison their food. If you can find an area like that, then I can see a sense of you doing, say, ferreting if you want to in a big way. And for diet, the ferret itself is an animal which is designed for basically purely meat. The ferret itself, I'll be honest, is a very curious eater. He'll be quite happy if you say give him a dessert or something like that. The ferret itself is very keen on eating fancy food, but you should try and make sure as much as possible if ferrets eat meat such as liver, chicken, pork. You want as well make sure, particularly in the diet side, is that the food a ferret's actually receiving is as much meat as possible because there's a lot of people who basically do meat in the sense they may say add chili, they may add say even in some cases I heard of someone adding chocolate, but you should try and make sure when you're buying food for your ferret it comes from as natural meat source as possible. If you do that, you generally will have no problems with your ferret coming in well or anything like that because of poor quality meat. And as well, a trick as well you can use to get cheaper meat if you're wanting it is you can quite easily go into a butcher and just say to a guy, "Hey, do you have any spare? Do you have any meat you're throwing out which is still good, but you can't sell it because of the date?" And the guy can say, "Okay, here's some free meat," and then in a lot of cases there'll be nothing wrong with it. It's just not technically they're allowed to sell it in the grounds the date's gone, so you can give it to your ferret say today, and you generally won't have any problems. You can as well also, if you want some cheaper meat for ferrets or in a smaller budget, it's quite easy for you to go and say a wholesaler and get meat quite cheap. Because I mean, for example, the price of meat we get is roughly 25 pence each, and it lasts the meat we get for liver particularly. It lasts roughly 2 meals, including I got two ferrets. So 12.5 pence a meal is not really particularly much money to spend, to be honest. I think most people are like easy enough to afford it. You can as well if you're wanting to get more other things such as chicken, pork chops, or some fancier meat, that kind of stuff. You can quite easily get them cheap. Supermarkets have discounts on meat, that kind of stuff. It's not particularly hard if you're willing to do a bit of research into getting good quality meat. And for shelf life food, meat itself, it always depends, but to me, I would go with the perspective it'll last when you buy it roughly 1 week if it was new or fresh when you got it, roughly 1 week. But you can extend the shelf life of food by freezing it. If you freeze it, it can last a bit longer. This obviously does depend how you freeze it, that kind of stuff. But it can last anywhere, give you an extra, say, week to at max, I would say a month. And for preparation requirements, to be honest, we don't really do nothing that fancy. We cut the meat so it's easier for a ferret or ferrets to put in their mouth, and that's basically as far as we take it. We also sometimes get actually meat that's already pre-cut for them, so we don't have to do anything like it. And where can food be purchased? You can basically get meat from within reason, whereas any supermarket in the world. You can easily get it from a wholesale. You can get it from butchers. You can get it from sometimes a few other different places, but the main places is generally for me supermarkets, wholesalers, and a wee bit butcheries some of the time. And the cost of food, to be honest, I've heard in America it's really expensive, but in the UK to get meat, to be honest, is really cheap. You'd be talking roughly at most, to be honest, £5 a week. Meat costs if you got roughly the same amount as me. You can as well if you want to go with the old discount way. You could obviously get it cheaper if you're buying larger quantities. Say you got 20 ferrets or however many. I also as well get ferret seeds. The reason for why I get ferret seeds is one of the things I feel can be a bit bad or annoying is if you're only giving them just say one meal a day, that kind of stuff. The ferret itself, like a human or anyone, is going to get hungry for a day. If you don't have for him or her to eat, to me, it's not really going to do good. That's why I get seeds of high quality, which contain lots of meat, lots of protein, that kind of stuff in it. And for nutrient content food, a way I've just always done it, I just aim to get basic food which is high quality, it's got a good source of protein, fat, that kind of stuff. That's my main way of doing it. I just get high quality, say livers, chickens, a wee bit of pork sometimes, and some other meats as well. I don't find overall ferrets like fish very much, but some may, depending on where you get them and that kind of stuff. Food for non-protein health food required per meal. Well, for that, the meat you need is, to be honest, it's not very much. A ferret itself doesn't really eat much. I'm just going to give you a approximate measurement. Look at my hand. My hands, my just from there, just a wee bit there. That's to me about as much meat my ferrets are eat a day. Just sorry, one for that last amount for one of them, that amount for say a second one, and that's all they eat. Ferrets themselves don't really eat particularly much because the ferret itself is designed to be skinny, so basically the ferret can slide through things and get through things more easy for being skinny. That's the reason they don't eat much. So you generally won't have to worry about getting lots of food for them unless you have a lot of them or some reason you need more of than you should. And for health and age and weight, etc., to be honest, I my ones are roughly 7 years old now. I've had them since they're about 1 years old. I did get them from. I'm just gonna be honest. I did get them from a bit of a stupid person, but anyway, once we started getting better food, the ferret's coat improves a great deal, and overall we've had more zero medical problems with them. The only thing we've got with one of them, he's got a bit of a bad leg, but we're actually getting him cured quite fast. The reason we're getting him quite cured quite fast is we're actually giving him goat's milk. You may not believe this, but you can actually just give your ferret or your polecat goat's milk. Within 2 weeks, you actually notice his or her bones will be a lot stronger. By a lot stronger, say the bone was quite soft before, if you give them that, in 2 weeks your bones will feel as hard as rocks. And I also find as well, since the ferret doesn't really drink much of it, because it doesn't really need for his body size, you can also use this as a way to help keep the ferret healthy for longer. And you can also use this as a way to boost its strength and boost the lifespan of it. And for legislative requirements, there's not really much really in the UK for them because the reason for why is people in the UK don't really overall know much about ferrets because we kind of, if you like, the popularity of ferrets kind of died off a lot after World War One and Two ended, and quite a lot of people in the UK still have the idea, which I also thought was quite funny, since they don't know anything about ferrets, they have the idea that ferrets full of anger and temper, which when in reality, the ferret itself is overall quite a caring animal and quite unique in its personality, I found overall. And for a most appropriate feeding regimen, pretty perfectly honest, I give them seeds every day, I give them water, I give them goat's milk at night time. I sometimes give them fancy meat at night time just as a wee treat. I also as well give them water at least fresh once a day, and I know in different countries there's quite a lot of different rules for them, but in general, you just really give them what they need. High quality meat, as much water as they need. You can, if you want, give them goats, but I'd strongly recommend to keep them healthier and make them stronger overall. And for, let's see, he asked to create a weekly diet plan. To be honest, I would just do it simple. You can do it different ways. You could say a liver every day of the week. You could say include chicken. You could say include pork. It's really your choice. You don't really have to make it complicated. You can just say have liver one week, next week pork. But you have to make sure as well, because the ferret itself is quite a curious eater. You need to try and make sure, I would say, that you vary your diet a bit, or the ferret itself can be just get sick of eating it or sick of drinking something, and it'll stop. So you need to try and make sure your diet varies a wee bit for the lifespan of them. And for hazards, the only really hazards I kind of already covered would be if, for argument's sake, you're getting something from, say, a supermarket or that, and if I added in something which is quite bad for a ferret, say chili or something that's the ferret's not designed to eat, or if you're, say, going hunting, if you're in the wrong area, then your ferret could possibly become unwell if one who preys he or she attacks contains some kind of chemical designed to kill off a prey. That's really the only thing I would say for the hazards to the animal from food sources. Well, for hazards to human health, it kind of always depends. I mean, if the person's a butcher and cutting up meat for you, that kind of stuff, the only real hazard for to him or her, I would say overall, would be if there's a cutting meat, if they're not paying attention, you cut off, say, a finger or something like that. And that's really it. I mean, if the floor is wet, that's more, to be honest, a bit of a, if you like, a self-caused thing in a lot of cases, because unless you, for some odd reason, want to have a wet floor, you should generally have it cleaned up so you won't slip. And also, if you're hunting, the only really things you might encounter is, depending where you are, you might actually find wildlife which is quite dangerous, which could be want to attack you or fight you, that kind of stuff. But except for that, and also you might find wires or that kind of stuff as a fence, which could be dangerous to you. But that's basically all. If you want to ask me questions, feel free to. Anyway, see you.